All right. Yeah, thank you for that introduction. All right, everyone, welcome to the Future of Defense presentation from Keeper Security. So IT leaders are bracing for unprecedented cyber threats. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now this data comes from a survey that we took of over 800 technology leaders around the globe uh, regarding the digital landscape of what threats are being faced. So as IT leaders are preparing for threats, we can look at organizations under fire. So 92% of IT leaders say that cyber attacks are more frequent than today than a year ago. So, and obviously you have things that are fueling those, like cryptocurrency. Obviously, there are a lot of monetary rewards for these types of activities, unfortunately, and it's easy to remain anonymous. Unprecedented threats. 95% of IT leaders report that cyber attacks are more sophisticated than ever before, and that's true. And we'll dive into that, obviously, with the artificial intelligence and machine learning and such. Leaders remain focused. So 92% of IT and security leaders say that cybersecurity is their #1 priority, and it's a really good thought process to think that that security itself, or IT security, is also job security, because that's very true. If you've ever seen a hack take place. So anyways, let's elaborate on some of these stats. So cyber attacks are increasing according to IT leaders. What type of attacks are these? So you have 51% in terms of phishing or spear phishing. And if you're not familiar with spear phishing, what that is it's a more directed, sophisticated attack. So it might be that the hacker takes the role of someone in the organization and then creates a template, a spoof template with that particular role, and then they like to add some kind of urgency around it. So perhaps the CEO, and hey, you need to do this urgently. It's an emergency. There's X amount of dollars on the line. Something that would get someone to bypass security procedures. And then 49% in terms of malware, and obviously malware has been around for quite some time, but it is becoming more adaptive and more intelligent with the advent of AI. So that's going to be the case across the board here. The fact that we have AI to increase the speed of software development. If you've ever seen in ChatGPT, you ask it to write some code, it's incredibly fast. So that means that hackers can generate malware much faster than ever before. Ransomware, obviously you saw this in the news, I'm sure, in the last few years. A lot of ransomware attacks and basically locking down your system, saying, transfer this money to this Bitcoin account is very common and unfortunate. So that's never a position that anyone wants to find themselves in. Password attacks have increased, and that's always going to be true. Now, obviously with Keeper Security, we have an extraordinarily powerful password vault. We'll get into that a little bit later. And then ways to generate that and combat those attacks. And then denial of service attacks have increased as well. Denial of service, if you're unfamiliar, is basically when a team of hackers, they'll use kind of rogue machines to attack your networks and services, and essentially bring things to their knees by overwhelming the processors or the memory, because computers can only handle so much traffic. So anyways, yeah, these threats are currently on the rise, and there are ways to address them, which we'll get into. So Evolve Cyber Threats Preparedness Survey. Again, this is related to the data. And here what we're looking at is a comparison between emerging threats on the left side versus on the right side, what security leaders feel like they're ill-equipped to handle. All right, so what new threat vectors are there? AI-powered attacks. And again, I talked about the fact that AI makes everything incredibly faster. You might gauge it as even like 100 times faster. So what does that do? It makes a single hacker to the power of 100, right? Which is a scary thought process, and obviously you need greater protection there. And then in terms of what IT leaders feel they're ill-equipped to defeat those AI-powered attacks, and so we'll get into some of the remedies for those here later as well. Deepfake technology has improved quite a bit. I was actually really stunned recently. We did a test on this internally, and in the past, when you'd need to train AI to capture video or audio likeness of someone, it would need many hours of data in order to build a model. And I saw one yesterday that actually is it's based on your audio, so it captures your voice. It only needs 20 seconds of your voice in order to train itself to sound like you, and it can instantly sound just like you with only 20 seconds of your voice. So that's pretty wild. And then, as we discussed, the IT leaders feel like they're not equipped to handle that. 30% of them, and so yeah, I mean that's a use case of that might be that you were in like Slack or Teams, and you received an audio recording message that sounds just like the CEO. That's something we need to make sure that we prepare for and prevent. Supply chain attacks. So this would be anything along the lines of your infrastructure, and your supply chain might be companies that you're relying on. So companies that hold in trust your architecture, basically any kind of hosting that you're doing, or third parties or APIs that you connect to, anywhere that your basically data is moving back and forth. And then leaders are not equipped to handle 5G network exploits. So in terms of shoring up those mobile devices and protecting things across the board from these types of attacks, that's going to be critical moving forward. So that's the landscape. And then in terms of the frequency of the attacks that IT leaders are seeing, that's what this chart represents. So the interesting thing is if you break this down by the first two bars of the chart, about half of the industry is getting attacked every few months to every month. And then if you look at the very bottom of the chart, that you can see that about 15% of the industry is getting attacked hourly or daily. And then we have a nice kind of middle ground that is weekly or annually. So so it's very uncommon to be attacked weekly or annually, and it would depend on what you're protecting, right? The frequency of attack generally depends on what you're protecting internally. So that might be an intellectual property that's worth billions of dollars, or some of these labs that protect viruses that are very scary and such. So it's a good idea to look at your assets, based on what you need to protect, how much you need to secure that, and we have solutions, with our greater PAM offerings that'll allow you to provide escalated levels of security for different assets. All right, so Keeper, the zero trust PAM solution. We talked about the bad news, so here's the good news. You have the barbarians at the gate, but you also have a team of experts at Keeper Security that is also using artificial intelligence and machine learning. We have a dedicated team that specializes in those fields. So the cybersecurity platform is extraordinarily powerful. It is enterprise grade. We are FedRAMP authorized with the impact level of moderate. We are state ramp authorized. So we do a lot of business with federal and state governments, with universities, and we are a highly desirable platform for those types of solutions. We have a FIPS 140-3 validation. That's a validation of our encryption model for the public sector. So with our PAM solution, we enable organizations to achieve full visibility, security, control, and reporting across every user on every device, right? And we also give you essentially unlimited storage of secrets and unlimited devices, which is really nice with the platform. And then we unify disparate identity and access management solutions into one ubiquitous platform with our zero trust, zero knowledge security. All right, so what that means is essentially this is easy to set up, it's easy to deploy. Most of our solutions can deploy in about 15 to 30 minutes. That's extremely refreshing. When you compare that to older, PAM solutions, more antiquated PAM solutions, Keeper is much easier to set up and maintain. People love that, and then everything really comes back to the vault, which people like as well. So looking at the AI-powered autofill to recognize phishing websites, essentially the experience that you're going to have as a user is if I go to a website and someone's trying to falsify, in this case you can see Amazon, someone's trying to falsify Amazon.com, Keeperfill will recognize that it's not the correct website and it's not going to pop up to fill that credential. If you wanted to protect something more aggressively, we do have another solution as well, which is remote browser isolation, which is a completely locked down, secure browser experience. Both of these solutions are extremely secure. It just depends on what you're protecting and the level you want to provide. All right, so going over the multiple use cases that Keeper addresses. Password management with the password vault. We did talk about, Keeper is the most secure audited password manager and privileged access management solution in the world. And so essentially, storing your passwords, rotating your passwords, changing passwords, all of that is baked into the system. And then we can also generate passphrases. We support passkeys as well. So any kind of credential where you would need to authenticate securely. We have an extraordinarily strong encryption model as well. So anything sacred for your organization should be stored in a Keeper vault. Password and file sharing. So again, if you wanted to share files within the Keeper vault architecture under that triple encryption model, everything is encrypted down to the record level. So if I upload a file to a record, that file is encrypted with the rest of the record. That uses an AES 256 key running in GCM mode. So we can support file sizes of 100 megabytes, 5 gigabytes, and 100 gigabytes, depending on where you upload it. Password rotation. So automated password rotation, which is granular down to the credential level. And so you can schedule password rotation across 300 credentials. We can also stop and restart services after that rotation takes place. We can rotate SSH keys in addition to that. And then that could be the rotations within AWS, within Azure, or within your local environment. Secrets management for DevOps. So we have roughly over 24 integrations for secrets management. And it's a really easy setup process to get the integration done with the vault. It's, again, 15 to 30 minutes. It uses a public-private key architecture when it communicates with the vault. And even if your developers need to pull custom data into their applications, they'll be able to do that. And it's just using a very straightforward tokenization. And then privileged session management. So we talked a little bit about this, and essentially this is a way for you to grant privileged access without exposing a username and password or username and PIM key. And you can record that session. You can record it down to the pixel level. We can capture the mouse and keyboard activity in those. And there are 9 protocols for privileged session management: remote desktop, SSH, Telnet, VNC, Kubernetes, and then the 3 databases: MySQL, MSSQL, and Postgres. We also have the remote browser isolation, which is a way for you to log into a website fully locked down, fully controlled, and quarantined off the local device. So there's no way for ransomware or malware to get onto your device. Remote infrastructure access, again, falling under the privileged session management or autofill of credentials, anything that you need to get into securely and potentially to have those passwords rotated in conjunction with that. Zero trust, zero knowledge architecture. So this is a true zero trust, zero knowledge model. We don't bend any of those rules whatsoever, and you have full control over those zero knowledge principles. So if there ever are situations where you need to see everything, so to speak, at the corporate level, you have that option as well. Password discovery. So that essentially is going to be part of the secrets manager. And that's where we spider out and discover passwords within your organization. So that makes things a lot easier to set up. Single sign-on security, we use elliptic curve cryptography with that. So that's highly secure. We have a patent on the unique way that we do single sign-on. Passwordless authentication. So we have biometrics and Windows Hello and such available in this platform as well. Credential governance and control. So you have full control over what passwords and passphrases are being generated for what websites, and it's down to the domain level. So very granular there. SSH key management, SSH key rotation, storage of SSH keys, and then also SSH sessions, privileged sessions without exposing the credentials. Secure remote database access. And so again, this would be privileged session management without exposing the credentials, being able to record the screen while somebody's accessing your database, seeing all the commands that they entered in while they were in that session, if you like. And then industry compliance and reporting. So anything for cybersecurity insurance companies or whatever you have to meet in terms of compliance. Again, we work with a lot of federal and state agencies and public sector agencies. So again, thank you for attending this webinar. Keeper is FedRAMP authorized with the impact level of moderate and state ramp authorized. And we're hoping that you come to check us out, and we'll make it worth your while. It'd be a lot of fun. Thank you.